aspects of Colossus and where we're at. We're a little bit more developed than some of the other projects you've heard today, and I'll take you through what we've done to sort of get to the status where we are now. Disclaimers on the website if anyone wants to read it, and I'll pass through the corporate summary because there's some really good stuff to talk about. So in the last 18 months since we acquired Colossus, it's been a bit of a hectic ride, to be quite honest, but it's all about getting down to the fundamentals and de-risking the project, which you've heard a lot about. So from a geology point of view, we've got a very big resource, and it's only scratched the surface of our sort of tenements that we have. So we currently have short of 500 million tonnes. We're an ionic clay project. So you saw before, I think Alistair mentioned, from a grade point of view, being clay, we're less than the hard rock, but where we fall short on grade, I can tell we make up with the economics, which I'll take you through now. Plenty of upside on the exploration as well, you'll see on the next slide. I'm a chemical engineer by trade, so metallurgy and chemical engineering is sort of my thing, and I guess understanding how you get to the economics, it's all about the flow sheet, because it's all about cost versus margin, and I'll take you through that now as well. Mauro has done a very good job speaking about Minas Gerais, and I'll talk to you about the support we're getting at local municipality and state level and even federal. We are one of those groups that actually have an MOU with the state government and getting our permitting fast-tracked. And we've got a JV with another Australian company called Ionic Rare Earths. We'll go through that. It's actually been really paramount recently on the advantages that that's sort of given us with respect to certain funding solutions that are coming out of Brazil. And the last part, which shouldn't be misunderstood or not understood, is I'm sure everyone in the room has seen the geopolitical tensions that's happening, in particular with China and the US, and what that means for the rest of the world. I guess rare earths has been the highlight from that discussion, and being in Europe recently twice in the last month on discussions on financing and off-taking, is you understand that in order to actually build that supply chain, speed to market is actually very important, and it's great to have a fantastic project with great economics, but again, permitting is a big part, so I appreciate Mauro sort of giving some colour on that, and I will too. All right, so this is a map. You heard the word, I think, caldera earlier. I can't remember who it was from, one of the Peru projects. We're actually in an extinct volcano in the southern part of Minas Gerais. We actually have the border of Sao Paulo to the southern part of us. And the reason for giving you some colour on the type of area we're in, it's actually the geological freak of an area that we've managed to find ourselves in. So with respect to grades compared to other ionic clay projects, you'll see on the next slide that we've got literally the highest grades of not just total rare earth oxides, which to be honest I never talk about because I think it's a very misleading sort of way of presenting rare earths. It's all about the magnetic rare earths, and I say that because when we sell our products, those magnetic rare earths make up 93% of our product mix. So I'd rather focus on the things that actually give us the value. What you see in the picture there, we've got 5 tenements in colour. They make up the 500 million tonnes, but you can see lots of thatched areas on there. We've got another 90% to still explore. Obviously cash flow is king as a junior. We've got plenty of resource at the moment to get up and running and into production, but we look forward to exploring that down the track. Spoke about the resource, as I mentioned, those 5 areas that you saw on the previous slide make up the 500 million. The good news is from a maturity and a de-risking of the geology point of view, of that 500 million, 330 million tonnes is already in the measured and indicated resource. And sticking with that, if you look at the total rare earth oxide, yes, it's high, 2,680 ppm, but it's all about the magnetic rare earth oxides. And I'm going to show you that in the slides that are coming up when it comes to economics, because that's really the value proposition of Colossus. When you've got a large resource, similar to what Alistair sort of showed with Tyros, is we're building a very big facility. It's a 5 million tonne per annum facility. That's a lot of clay and dirt to move. But 5 million tonnes when you have 500 million means that you've got some room to move. And with the mine planning that we've done, and this is all about just doing the work post-resource definition, is that we've been able to define, 100 million tonnes, that's a 20-year mine life, of over 1,000 ppm, 1,000 ppm of the magnetic rare earth oxides. That's higher than 90% of clay projects' total rare earth oxides. That's just our magnetic rare earth oxides. Hence again, you'll see the economics and why even at today's prices, we've got no problem making very robust returns, which is not easily done. If I can go back, I'm not sure if I can go back, yeah. You'll see a faint line, you'll see a faint purple line through here. The reason for bringing that up is we've got tenements in different municipalities in this area. In the north, where it says our northern concessions, that is in the municipality of Poços de Caldas versus in the south here, the municipality of Caldas. I bring that up because they're very different with respect to pro-mining and non-pro mining. And we strategically have selected, and I'm sure Mauro can probably tell you more than me, following discussions with our environmental consultant and with the local government, who I speak to quite frequently, we chose to put our facility in the northern concessions, and I can tell you it's paid off in spades based on the environmental approval side of things. So much so that, as Mauro said, our environmental approvals stay at state level compared to some other projects where if you've got uranium or thorium, for example, due to the sensitivity of that, they go to federal level, and I can tell you now that it takes a lot longer to get your environmental approvals. But the story doesn't stop there. Even though the environmental approvals are managed by the state, you still need buy-in and approval from your local municipality. And we've already received a certificate of regularity of occupation from our municipality. And the importance of that is it's basically already the stamp to mine, build our facility and operate, which is a pretty big thing considering we've only been running for 18 months. So obviously only half the story, but that actually gets submitted to the state and puts us in very good running to get, as Mauro said, our environmental approvals done quicker than normal. The other part, which is, to be honest with you, quite surreal, I've worked in 5 different continents now, and our local government, with the MOU that we signed with them, are willing to run power, sewage and water to our project site, which I don't know anywhere else in the world, which are willing to support junior projects like that. So needless to say, like I said, the support we're getting at local, state and federal is fantastic. Just to show you, the purple bubble here is someone that everyone in WA should know. It's Alcoa. They've been there for 85 years, and that's their big smeltering facility they've got. This is a mining town, and that's why I mentioned that we actually started in Poços de Caldas. There's another very famous company called CBA, which is basically the Brazilian version of Alcoa, the Brazilian company of Brazil, or the aluminium company of Brazil. They're just to the north of that. The precedents they've set in this area for mining and what it does to the local community. First, they've set the bar very high, which is no problem for us. We look forward to working with them. But it means that they're very accepting of what we're trying to contribute. But it also means, on the flip side, and from a selfish point of view, the supply chain they've got, everything from 3 universities pumping out geologists, chemical engineers, you name it, technicians, all the way through to reagents. If we need a drill bit, it's there, it's in town. So it's important to understand that, because when you build up an OPEX profile, geology is one of them, your flow sheet's another one, but the supply chain is another important one. And I think Latin Resources is a good example with Pilbara, that it's not necessarily that they've got higher grades compared to here in Oz, but their cost of supply of delivering a project in Brazil is a fraction of that compared to Australia, Europe and North America. And you combine those 3 and you get a very high margin project. Okay, I've mentioned we're a rare earth company, and I've sort of said ionic clay, but I want to quickly discuss, and I'm a bit of a metallurgist sort of geek as well. When we say ionic absorption clay, what we're trying to say is that unlike the hard rock friends, where there's a lot involved in sort of breaking and getting to the actual surface to actually extract the rare earths. Here, Mother Nature's done all the work for us, and it's done a very good job for us, by the way, is the rare earths are weakly and ionically bonded to the clay. So when we want to take that out, we literally wash the clay. And I know it sounds funny, but we literally wash the clay. Think of your washing machine. We put the clay in there, and we use, we've tested quite a few, but we're using ammonia sulfate. And you mentioned earlier about the agricultural, ammonia sulfate is fertiliser. And so what you have is the sulfate goes onto the clay, and the rare earths come into solution, and that is our pregnant leach solution. That is the processing we do. We filter. I may show you on the flow sheet up here. All we do is put in a big tank. We put ammonium sulfate, which has got an agitator. We filter. We put in another tank. And all we do is raise the pH from 4.5 or 5 to about 7. And then we put it in one last tank and we filter. That's the flow sheet. And from a guy who's worked in oil and gas and lithium, it's pretty surreal to see a flow sheet of 3 big tanks and 3 big filters. I mentioned pH 4.5 for anyone that's had a coffee this morning. If you didn't know that, it's around pH 4. So it's very benign and it's very cheap like that. And then there's no point having a cheap and simple flow sheet if you can't recover. The recoveries we're getting from a big set of composites that we've tested with ANSTO, and ANSTO I've noticed are outside, is between 76 and 78%. That's all the way from the ore to our final products, which is surreal from not only being able to extract it, but then very minimal losses throughout the flow sheet. The last part, and this is a pretty picture from Hatch, who have been doing our engineering and have done a very good job, by the way. I mentioned low, I'll probably show this on the next slide, but the operating cost to actually deliver a kilogram of total rare earth oxide is $6. Now, our basket price at today's very low rare earth prices is $30, okay? So you can start to picture the margins we're making and how robust the project is. I mentioned I've been in Europe and in North America quite a bit recently, so it's nice to be home, to be quite frank. But speaking with off-takers is the next phase of evolution of a company, because you really understand you need their input in order to finalise your flow sheet, in case you need to make any slight changes to the flow sheet in order to be on spec for your product. And those discussions have been very important. But what it's also highlighted is our very low impurities put us in very good stead when it comes to not just the actual changes or any changes at all to the flow sheet, but the bargaining and negotiation power I have based on those low impurities. The last part is, and we could talk about this ad nauseum, is what a fantastic jurisdiction Brazil and Minas Gerais is when it comes to power. We've already got our power purchase agreements in place. We understand the costing, and it's less than actually the 5 cents that Mauro shows, which is mind-boggling, to be quite honest. The other part, which sort of I think Rob spoke about, or someone else spoke about, or Alastair I think did, is from an ESG point of view, we've got no tailing dams. So this project here takes the clay, and by the way, the deepest pit that we go to is 20 metres. That's all we go to. We have a digger, we put it into the process, and the clay that comes back out goes back into the ground, and we start rehabilitation. So there's not many projects globally that can say they do that. So the ESG credentials, needless to say, are very good. 2 minutes left, and only a few slides, which is good. I've spoken a lot about the operating costs. The slide or the picture in the top left-hand corner is from Project Blue, which for me is probably the industry standard for rare earths as a pricing agency. This includes all the Chinese operators as well, and that dark blue bar on the left is us. That's Colossus. We sit at the very left-hand part of the cost curve, and for anyone that really wants to talk economics, that's really the value proposition. Is we, through any commodity cycle, even today's $58 or $60, even if it goes down to 50, we've got no problem making robust returns. And I guess the exciting part is my job is to keep an eye on the rest of the market. You can see Linus and I think one other company globally that can slightly make a little bit of money at today's prices, or we don't need to worry about that. The work we've done on CapEx, at the moment it's sitting at 287 million. So if you know some of the other projects that I mentioned here in Australia, where you're pushing 2 billion for a rare earth project, obviously we are a fraction of that. So putting a 30% margin as we do currently, so we're sitting sort of at 373 million for our CapEx. Obviously that's not too bad considering we're building a 5 million tonne per annum plant. And it also means from a financing point of view, it's a lot easier pill to swallow when it comes to having financing discussions. Here is just some of the economics that I mentioned. We've got two price forecasts. I don't even need to use $90, which is a lot less than all of our peers when it comes to presenting economics and scoping studies. And if someone can find one who's using less, please come and talk to me. But let's talk about $60, which is the price or the spot price that we did the economics on during January and February this year. We still have a pre-tax MPV of around 720 million US, or just over 1.1 billion. And even if the price for some reason was to go down to $50, I guess this again, and I've used the same word 3 times, value proposition. You can imagine the discussions we're having with off-takers that anyone downstream in the value chain they're relying on a Western rare earth supply chain to get up and running. But if you can't be making robust returns in this cyclical nature, it makes it pretty difficult to put your money on a miner who's going to struggle to actually stay solvent. And I guess that's where, if anybody ever wants to talk about who are the best miners to probably get up, speak to the next part of the value chain, because they're relying on us to basically get into production in order to support them. Done? 40 seconds, okay. So that's basically it. Mauro mentioned Zema, which is the governor of Minas Gerais, signing a very important MOU with us, and that's the municipality Sergio. And we also have an important JV, that's Invest Minas in the bottom right-hand corner, who came to visit us to sign that JV. It's for downstream processing technology. I've gone out of time, unfortunately, but if anybody wants to know more about that JV, it's very important. Just means that we can fully maximise the MREC we're going to produce from Colossus. And thank you for that.